Hey guys, it's Cosmic Skeptic, and just before this video begins, I'd like to give a quick shout out to a channel that I'm subscribed to. The channel is called Rationality Rules, and the reason that I'd like to shout it out is because, well, effectively the entire channel got deleted. This guy lost all of his videos and his over 3,000 subscribers, and that's just a horrific thing to have happen. I can't imagine what that must do for your enthusiasm for making videos. However, he is still making videos, and he's re-uploaded all of his old videos onto a channel of the same name. He's not affiliated with me in any way. I don't even know if he knows who I am or that this channel exists, but it was just a really sad thing to see happen. So I'll leave a link in the description. It would mean a lot if you guys could just go and check it out. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. It'd be really, really great if we could get him back to where he was, or at least help him along the way. But anyway, this video is due to the countless emails and comments that I get claiming that I'm not actually an atheist. No, I'm an agnostic. And I think a lot of people do actually wonder, what's the difference? An atheist or an agnostic? A lot of the time the words can be used interchangeably. So what is the difference between atheism and agnosticism? And ultimately, does it even really matter? So I suppose a good place to start would be to talk about the nature of atheism and agnosticism. I'd like to borrow a point that I first heard on the atheist experience, effectively outlining the difference between the two positions. And what it boils down to is that agnosticism refers to knowledge, whereas atheism refers to belief. To be agnostic is to say, I don't know if there is a God. I have no way to say with any certainty whether or not there is some kind of deity which created the world. And to me, this is a pretty rational position to take. To be an atheist has nothing to do with knowledge and is just to say, I don't believe that there is a God. And what this means is that the two are not mutually exclusive. You can be an agnostic atheist. You don't have to be one or the other. In fact, if you speak to an atheist, I've found that the majority of the time their position is precisely that. There's no way for me to know with any certainty if God exists, and therefore I don't believe in him. Okay, you could prove to me that God exists, and then I'd know that he exists and therefore would believe in him, but until you can do that, my position is neutral. And there you have an agnostic atheist, but still an atheist. And again, this is corroborated by our dictionary definition of the word atheism. If we look at the root words, we split atheism into a, meaning without, and theism, meaning God. So if you live without the influence of a deity, well, you're an atheist. However, not every atheist falls within this category. Some atheists will tell you that they do actively disbelieve in God. And this leads me on to my next point. Do atheists disbelieve in God, or do they simply lack a belief in God? The answer? Well, both. Again, it depends on who you ask, but there are absolutely people out there who will tell you with certainty that there is no God. And these people often go by the label of anti-theists, but it's important to note that these people represent a subset of atheism. Put it this way, all anti-theists are atheists, but not all atheists are anti-theists. And if we go once again back to our dictionary definition of atheism, we can see that it actually accounts for this. Okay, atheism is either a disbelief, that's anti-theism, or a lack of belief, that's atheism, in God. You can also think of it in terms of this exceedingly well-produced graph, which on the y-axis represents knowledge of there being no God versus no knowledge, and on the x-axis represents disbelief versus belief. You can say that you don't know if there's a God and therefore you don't believe in one, and that makes you an agnostic atheist. You can say that you do know that there is no God and therefore don't believe in one, and that makes you this anti-theist we were talking about. You can say that you don't know if there's a God, but you believe there's a God, and that makes you a theist. Or you can say that you know there is no God, but you believe in God, and frankly that just makes you an idiot. But regardless, the main thing to take away from that graph is to realize that everything on the left-hand side of the y-axis represents atheism. Be it people who disbelieve in God, or be it people who simply lack a belief in God, they're all atheists and they can all call themselves atheists. And since we've been doing some graphical work, we may as well do some statistical work whilst we're at it. Agnosticism is not always 50-50. Okay, to call yourself an agnostic is not necessarily to say that you sit firmly on the fence. You could call me an agnostic and I'd perfectly accept that. However, that doesn't mean that I don't lean firmly in one direction. And of course, the same can be said for people who lean in the opposite direction as well. You can be an agnostic but give slightly more credence to the theistic arguments. It really doesn't matter which side you believe in more, you can still safely call yourself an agnostic. The only difference really being that some breeds of theism will tell you that you need to know that there is a God. So it's often rare to find people who say, well, I don't know that there's a God, but I do believe in one. But it's certainly possible. And you know, a lack of belief in something is not the same as a belief in the opposite. So say you don't believe in God doesn't mean you do believe there is no God. Okay, imagine that I asked my mother, who for all her virtues knows nothing about computers. Imagine I asked her, Do you think that the Dell XPS 15 will outperform the new MacBook Pro and see the beginning of the downfall for Apple? Well, she's going to say, no, I don't believe that. And I'll say, oh, so you believe that the MacBook Pro outperforms the Dell? No, of course not. She just doesn't know anything about the topic. And I think here really lies the difference between agnosticism and atheism. An agnostic is someone who says, I know nothing about computing, so I don't believe either way. And an atheist is someone who says, well, actually, I do know a bit about computing, and I don't believe that the Dell is going to outperform the MacBook because I've done my research. And there's your difference. Both don't believe that the XPS 15 will outperform the MacBook Pro, but for different reasons. Both don't believe in a God, but for different reasons. And again, sticking to our analogy, within atheism there is a whole bunch of different people with a whole bunch of different attitudes towards theism. And it's quite unfair to talk about atheists as a whole as if they're some kind of active community. There are people who will tell you, look, I don't like the MacBook Pro, and the XPS 15 is the only way to go, and you're really stupid for liking the MacBook Pro. But there are also people who will tell you, well, look, I don't like the MacBook Pro, but I completely understand why you would. It's unfair to talk about atheism as an active community when really all that atheists are, and the only thing that binds them together, is a disbelief in something. That really doesn't make any sense. But look, if you want to call me an agnostic, then that is absolutely fine by me. If I fit your definition, then you can go right ahead. But just don't expect me to do the same. And likewise, if you're somebody who says, well, I don't know if there's a God, therefore I don't believe in one, I might call you an atheist. And if you don't like that, then I may even have the courteousness to choose to use your philosophical phraseology. But to get so caught up in the semantics that you try to formulate points of contention based on language really just goes to show that you lack the argumentative ability to employ any kind of arguments with any shred of actual philosophical depth. However, putting the debate format aside, if you just wanted to know the difference between atheism and agnosticism as a matter of interest, well then there is my 2 cents. But anyway, I have been Alex J. O'Connor, or Cosmic Skeptic. Don't forget to go and subscribe to Rationality Rules, the link will be in the description. I'd really appreciate it if we could help him to rebuild his channel. I want to thank you for watching as always. You can find me on social media here. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel too, and I'll see you in the next one.